Good evening, everyone. Urab Desai here with the tropical update for Friday, September 21st, 2018. And just like that, the tropics have suddenly started to become active again after a brief lull over the past few days. We now have, well, we don't have any named storms at the moment, but we do have four areas that we are tracking for disturbances. And you can see one of them right here. That's an Invest. I believe that was Invest 97L. And this one here is Invest 98L next to Bermuda. We also have Invest 99L just off the coast of Africa down here. And we have a disturbance that will be forming soon here in the central Atlantic. It's not an Invest yet, but it probably will be soon. If we take a look at the National Hurricane Center site right now, you can see that if you look at the 5-day tropical weather outlook, two of these areas are what I like to call code orange, which means that they have at least a 40 to 60% chance of development over the next 5 days. We have one code lemon, which is 0 to 30% chance over the next 5 days, and we have the red one, code cherry, which is a 70% chance or above, a high chance of tropical cyclone formation over the next 5 days. And if we take a look, first let's take a look at Invest 98L. That's the one that's just south of Bermuda here. It's kind of hard to even tell what's going on here because there's literally no thunderstorm activity whatsoever around the center of circulation, and the center is right about here at the beginning of the frame and then down here at the end of the frame. The disturbance does seem to be drifting south at a very slow pace. It's kind of just meandering right now, and like I said, no thunderstorm activity at all. This is the one that's least likely to develop. It's only a 0% chance of formation in the next 48 hours and just a 30% chance over the next 5 days. However, regardless of development, this storm will be something that people will need to watch, because if you do take a look at the forecast tracks, the model guidance does have, most of the models do have it impacting land, and specifically the North or South Carolina area, which of course are the areas that were just devastated by Hurricane Florence just last weekend. And so if this does indeed take this kind of track and impacts land, it's going to be dumping even more rainfall onto areas that have already received up to 2 to even 3 feet of rain. So it's going to be dropping even more rain in areas that don't need it, and that's definitely not good news at all for the Carolinas, and they will have to watch this system regardless of development. But speaking of its chances of development, some models here do have it developing into a tropical storm over the next few days. However, looking at the satellite just now, I don't think it's looking likely at all. And the majority, at least over 50% of the models, do not have it developing. But again, regardless of development, it does need to be watched. Now, if we take a look at Invest 97L, it's not looking that organized on satellite. There is some thunderstorm activity here, but it's mostly to the east of the center of circulation, which at the beginning of the frame here is right here. And that's because it's an area of high shear. If we look at the wind shear map, you can see 97L is right here where the cursor is, and it's being impacted by wind shear of about 30 knots. However, there is a 40% chance right now over the next 2 and 5 days of development. As it says, has become better organized, and a tropical depression could form tonight or Saturday. Note that it says could; it's not likely to form. Has 40% chance. That is, under 50% chance. So it's not likely, but it is definitely possible. But the wind shear will increase as it is heading into this area, which is going to be even higher wind shear, possibly up to 40 knots, as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. So if 98L does want to develop, 97L wants to develop, then it would need to develop relatively quickly. If you look at the forecast models, they do have it going here into the northern Lesser Antilles, into the Leeward Islands. Regardless of development, again, it will be bringing some gusty winds and some locally heavy rain to these islands, so it will still need to be watched. And if we do look at the intensity models, only 2 models do have it reaching tropical storm strength or greater, and most of the models do not have it developing at all. Now, taking a look at Invest 99L, this is probably the one that's looking the best right now on satellite. You can see that, well, the frame is kind of weird, but it was looking very robust earlier today. The thunderstorm activity has died down a bit over the last hour or two, but it is still looking pretty likely to develop, not in the next 2 days, but within the next 5 days. As you can see, there is a 60% chance of tropical cyclone formation within the next 5 days. And if we do look at the storm right now, the main problem I think right now is the fact that it's so low, as it's at a very low latitude right now. If we take a look at this, you can see that the center of circulation is under 10 degrees latitude. And most systems do not develop at that low of a latitude. Most systems have to be at least above 10 degrees latitude. The minimum is usually around at least 5 degrees north, so tropical depression could form in this area, but it would have to, for it to become stronger and become like a category 1, 2, 3 hurricane, it would have to probably at least be above 10 degrees north. And the reason for this is, of course, because of the Coriolis effect, and the Coriolis effect is basically rotation, and there's very little Coriolis effect between 5 degrees north and 5 degrees south, so that's why it's very hard to get tropical systems to form in the area, since there's little rotation. And if we do look at the forecast tracks for 99L, you can see that most of the models have it slowly going north over the next 48 to 72 hours. However, it will be, again, slow trend north. It's not going to be moving quite quickly north anytime soon. So it's probably likely to still stay weak over the next couple of days. But once it gets into this area, as it approaches that 10-degree north mark, it should start to be able to finally strengthen. And if we do look at the intensity models, there are a few models, I should say, that do have it strengthening into a tropical storm within the next 12 even to 24 hours. However, I do not think that that's likely, as again, it's at such a low latitude. But we have seen stranger things in the Atlantic, so it is possible. However, it's probably going to stay weak at least until hour 48. And some of these models, as you see, do have it approaching hurricane strength at around 4 to 5 days from now. And that is possible. However, again, if we look at the wind shear map, well, 97 or 99L is not on the map right now, as the map does not go out that far east, but you can see that the area that it will be heading into over the next couple of days is low shear of about only 10 knots in this region. However, then it will be approaching the area that 97L is currently in, with the wind shear of up to 25 to 30 knots. And by the time it gets into that region, it will be hard for it to develop if it has not developed already. So for this storm to develop and strengthen, it does have to start moving further north relatively soon. As again, if it does get into this region and still has not developed by then it's probably unlikely that it will develop, at least until it gets way further west, maybe into the western Atlantic Ocean, if it still survives by then. Now, if we look at the computer models, the GFS over the next 5 days, the interesting thing is that the GFS actually only develops 1 out of the 4 disturbances. And if we look at that, the one that does develop is the one in the central Atlantic. It does have this low pressure out here. And then over the next 5 days, it just has it basically meandering in the middle of the ocean, and the system should be no threat to land, at least not as of now. So no one needs to worry about it, which is good news. If you look at the European model as well, the European has a similar solution where, again, it only develops 1 out of the 4 storms, and the only storm it develops is the one in the central Atlantic, and it has a similar thing as the GFS, where it just meanders over the open waters of the central Atlantic, and it is no threat to land, which is good news. And one last thing, I do want to check the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation, and it continues to remain favorable in the Western Hemisphere and Africa, which covers the Atlantic Basin. So over the next 2 weeks, tropical development is still likely to occur, and the tropics should remain active through the beginning of October. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.